Welcome to the third module on engineering materials under engineering chemistry B. Myself Dr. Chandrasekhar from Division of Chemistry SNH. So in the earlier class we saw the syllabus of engineering materials. Under that we saw refractories, its classification and properties. In today's class we are going to see about lubricants, their classification and some of their properties which will be helpful as engineering materials. So going on to the class, before going to know about the lubricants, there are something which has to be discussed, and the main thing is surface irregularities, right? Surface irregularities. That means the material which looks like a very smooth surface to our naked eye, if you see the same surface in a magnified glass or in an electron microscope or any other magnifying medium, you will see imperfection on the surface, right? Even though for our naked eye, if it looks like smooth, but if you see it in a magnified lens, you will see irregularities in the system. These irregularities are the one which is going to cause some imperfection or some friction to the material. Okay, I will show you some pictures which help you in understanding. So this is a steel plate which looks shiny and all. The same thing, if you see in a magnified lens, you will see this kind of irregularities where you will have valleys and arterites, right? So you will have some dip and valley in this. So these imperfection are the one which is going to affect the lubrication property. Okay, right? So this is another surface, our wall, right? And the normal naked eye. The same thing, if you see using an AFM microscopy, you will see this kind of imperfection in this one. Okay, right? So if the surface is not uniform and if it is having some imperfection over it, then that will lead to some of the characteristics which affect lubricants. Okay, right? So surface irregularities, if you take two surface, two metal or two material which looks like smooth, if you rub these material together and the surface irregularities whatever present on the surface of these metals will come in contact, and when they come in contact certain deformations can happen, right? So you can take this green and blue, two metal surface or any surface which has got irregularities here, and that is magnified here. You can see the irregularities over the surface. Some has got a dip, some has got a peak, right? So this dip and peak are the one which is going to resist the lubricating property, right? So here the surface irregularities are there. When the two surface with irregularities move, they create friction. Whatever they are going to produce when these two surfaces are going to move is friction, right? So and these are because of the asperities and valleys. Okay, what is friction then? Friction is nothing but a force which resists the spontaneous flow of anything, right? Which is a force which resists the relative motion of any solid surface sliding against each other. If you take two metal surface or any surface, and if you want to slide those surface, if you want to move their surface along with it, so there will be some resistance to move the surface, and that resistance is called as friction. Friction is nothing but the force resisting the relative motion of solid surfaces sliding against each other. Okay, right? So this is the image. So this is your material which you want to move, and this is another material which you are kept the material on it, and when you push on one direction, right, so the motion is towards this direction, but this surface which is at the bottom, because of some imperfection, it resists the flow of this one. So if you are giving some amount of force over it, the same force will not be exerted at the end, because there is some friction over the surface which pulls the material back. Because of this, the entire force will not be translated, right? So this force which resists the flow of material is called as friction. Okay, right? And what is the consequence of this friction? Let it be, what is the problem? So the friction has got some effect on the lubricating property. Here I have categorized 3. So the consequences of friction, right? So the main thing is it creates energy, right? The main thing here is it creates energy, where the kinetic energy whatever possessed by the material, when you start moving, it creates a thermal energy. This thermal energy will be dissipated in the form of heat. Right, so whatever kinetic energy possessed by the material will be converted into a thermal energy, and this thermal energy will be dissipated in the form of a heat, and this heat is going to increase the temperature, and if the temperature is going to increase, some part of the force has been lost. Some of the energy is lost, some of the work has been lost. So because of this, there will be some deficiency, or the efficiency of the material will be lowered. Okay, so that is one. And the second one is, if these materials are going to move, sometimes what happens, if the one material is very hard and the other material is very soft, the harder material can break the softer material, thereby you will end up with some wear or tear over the surface of the materials, right? So another important consequence of many types of friction can be wear, which may lead to the performance degradation or damage to the components. Okay, so the hard material will take part of the softer material. Because of this, the material will get damaged, as well as the efficiency of the system will also be reduced. That is second. And the third one, it's not a disadvantage, it's an advantage, because if friction is not there, lot of things whatever we do in our day-to-day life cannot be done, right? For example, walking, so that cannot be done if friction is not there, right? If the surface is very smooth, we can't stand on the floor, we will be falling up, right? So because of the friction over the surface and our legs, we have some amount of force which we are using to stand or walk or to jog or whatever it is. So though it does some bad things, we have some good things with the friction also. So these are some of the consequences of friction, right? So moving on to the next slide. This is a ball bearing, and I am going to tell you what are the consequences of friction, right? So this is a very well or a very working ball bearing, which has got balls and a bearing is there, right? So once it is used, right, and after few hours of working, after few years of working, so this was dismantled, and you can see the balls whatever rotating in this ball bearing, instead of being a very smooth surface, it got some holes in it, right? These holes are nothing but the imperfection created when the surface moves, that is, when two surface keeps on moving. After some time, there will be some wear and tear. This is what happened to the balls in the ball bearing, right? So if the force is very high, right, it might lead to break of this ball bearing. That was happened here, right? So and you can see the imperfection here also, so because of the balls, right? So if a system is keep on working, if two surfaces are keep on working, at one point of time the friction will be more, and this friction will lead to these kind of damages to the material. Okay, so this is one example. We got more examples on this consequence of friction, but for time being I have given this one, right? So moving on to the next. This friction can be classified into two. One is sliding friction and the other one is rolling friction, right? So sliding friction is nothing but when the two materials are there, right? I said asperties and valleys, right? And these asperties might hit a soft surface, and once it is hitting the soft surface, this asperty can remove part of the soft material, and thereby it will make some imperfection on the surface, right? You can see here, so this is two surface and these are the two asperties, right? So highlighted there, and when this surface is moving, you can see here part of the material has been broken, right? So this we call it as ploughing, right? So we call it as ploughing, that is cutting of the soft material by the hard material, and this will lead to interlocking of peak and valley, right? So if you have a surface like this, right, and if you have something like the other surface like this, right, when this is going to move and this is going to move, at one point of time, what happens? Both gets locked into together, and this interlocks the material and the friction will be stopped. Okay, so this can happen because of ploughing, right? So ploughing, it will lead to cutting of the soft material by the hard material, and this will lead to interlocking of the peaks and valley, hindering the soft movement, right? So this is sliding friction. The second one is rolling friction, right? And this friction mainly produces heat, right? So this leads to production of heat, right? And this heat, it will be converted into a temperature, and this heat is mostly localized. Localized in the sense the heat generated will not be dissipated to the overall surface, it will be contained in that place itself, so that the temperature or the heat will make the material get heated up very fast, right? So because of this localized heating and there is no dissipation of heat, dissipation of heat, what happens? It forms a welding junction, right? So once the material starts heating up, both the material starts heating up, and after some time when it cools, both the metal starts welding up. Once it gets welded, and if you leave the material for a longer time, it will lead to seizure of the two surface. Okay, it will just make the material stuck permanently. Okay, so this happens because of rolling friction, where the heat is generated, that heat which cannot be dissipated, okay, and since it is a localized heating, so it will melt the surface of the metal or the material, and this temperature, this melting temperature makes the two materials stick together, and that will lead to welding junction. And if this is not if it is not checked properly, it will lead to seizure of the two materials. Okay, right. So here you can see here, so it starts, you can see here two asperities which came into junction, right? And since the material is moving very slowly, it has got enough time to come in contact with the other asperity or the valley, and there it produces the heat. Once it produces the heat, it makes the material slightly deform, and this deform makes the material to stick for a longer time, and once it stuck for a longer time, it leads to non-movement of the surface, and if it is not attended, it will lead to seizure of the two surface, right? Right. So this is the one. And coming to this, these imperfections, right, as I summarized earlier of the consequence of friction, the same thing here also. So these imperfections are going to increase the friction, okay, because it is stopping the material to not to move, so it increases the friction and it lead to wear and tear. The material will be damaged on the surface, and it releases heat, which ultimately reduces the efficiency of the material, right? So these are the consequences of friction, and to overcome all these imperfection, right, so a third material or an ingredient is added to the material or to between the two surface, and this material will smoothen the surface, and because of this the friction will be totally or partially removed, and once this friction is removed, the material can move smoothly. Okay, so in order to overcome these drawbacks, a third material ingredient is added, and this will be added between the surface of the material, and this material is going to reduce the function or partially remove the friction created by this irregular surfaces. Once this friction is removed, then the material can move very smoothly. Okay, so those ingredients are nothing but lubricants. Okay, so materials which reduce the frictional force and reduces the damage to the moving surface is called lubricants. Okay, two things. One is it is going to reduce the friction, and it is also going to reduce the damage of the material or the moving parts. So that will be the function of a lubricants. And the process of minimizing the frictional force and damage to the material by applying lubricants is called as lubrication. Okay, altogether the main aim is to reduce the friction between two surfaces, and this is done by adding lubricant. Okay, and the process of reducing the frictional force by adding lubricant is called as lubrication. Okay, right. So coming to the functions of lubricants, right. So it looks like bit repetitive because it has got different roles. So I am repeating the same thing in under different heads. So the function of lubricants, first one, it should reduce the wear and tear. Okay, so that's the main property. It should reduce the wear and tear so that the material can be used for a longer time. Second one, it should reduce energy loss. It should reduce the energy loss, because if more and more energy is lost, some of your input energy is lost and your efficiency will be less. So if it has to reduce the energy loss, the material should have a very high specific heat capacity. Okay, in order to have a minimum loss, the lubricant should have a very high specific heat capacity, and specific heat capacity is nothing but the energy required to raise the temperature to 1 degree Celsius, right. So that will be your specific heat capacity. So it should have a very high specific heat capacity so that it will not lose energy whatever has been given during the work, right. And the third one, it should act as a coolant. Okay, this is also related to specific heat capacity. Okay, it should act as a coolant. That means whatever energy lost, it should accept it, it should absorb that heat, and it should not transmit to the other surface. It should reduce the temperature, so that it should act as a coolant, and it should avoid seizure of the two surfaces. It should not make the surface stick for a longer time. Okay, so it should avoid seizure, and it should avoid unsmooth motion. That means the surface has to be lubricated, it has to move very smoothly, and it should act as a sealant. It should prevent entry of dust, moisture and dirt, and this will lead to corrosion. It will lead to corrosion. Okay, so it should act as a sealant. That means nothing can go in or come out of the material, right, and it should avoid entry of all these things, dust, moisture and dirt, and these three are the main reason for corrosion, and thereby this lubricant should act as a corrosion inhibitors. These lubricants should act as corrosion inhibitors. So these are the functions of lubricant. It should reduce wear and tear, it should reduce the energy loss, it should have a very high specific heat capacity, it should act as a coolant, it should avoid seizure of two surfaces, it should avoid unsmooth motion, and it should act as a sealant, and it should prevent entry of dust, moisture or dirt, and it should act as a corrosion inhibitor. So these are the functions of a lubricant, right. Moving on to the next one, the mechanism of lubrication. How lubrication works, right. So three different mechanisms have been proposed, three different mechanisms. One is based on a thick film or hydrodynamic or fluid film. Okay, so these are different terms which is used based on the application, right. So one is thick film, second one is boundary lubrication or thin film, and third one is extreme pressure lubricants, right. These are the three different types of mechanisms which have been proposed for this lubricating property. One is thick film or hydrodynamic fluid film, second one is boundary lubrication or thin films, and the last one is extreme pressure lubricants. We will see one by one, right. So coming on to the thick film or the hydrodynamic or fluid film, right. So this is used as a continuous fluid film, right. So these lubricants are used as a continuous material, so it's not like applying at one point and removing it. It is used continuously, right? It is a continuous fluid film which exists between the sliding surfaces, right? So between the surface, the material will be keep on revolving like the engine oil, whatever put in an engine, right? So that engine oil will be a continuous one, right? So employed when the sliding velocity is moderate and load is low. When the sliding velocity is moderate and low, this kind of mechanism has been proposed. And the third one, the thickness of the film will be greater than or equal to 1000 angstroms, right? The thickness of the film between the two surface will be 1000 angstroms, right? So that will be the mechanism for this one. And the coefficient of friction, it should be very low and it should be at 0.001 to 0.03. So this coefficient of friction is from this relation, F will be equal to mu n, and F is your frictional force and mu is your coefficient of friction. And if the frictional force is high, your coefficient will also be high. Okay, so to what we have to do is we should have a coefficient, frictional coefficient lower, so that the frictional force will also be lower, right? So we have to choose a lubricant which has a lesser coefficient of friction, thereby the frictional force will also be lesser, so that the material can move very smooth. Okay, so this is coefficient of friction. And the materials which are used for this thick films are blended mineral oils. Okay, so these are the materials which are used, and they are used to introduce a thick film between the sliding surfaces. Usually mineral oils are used and they will form a thick bed between the two surfaces, thereby the movement will be restricted or the frictional force will be restricted, and it finds application in all these places: watches, clocks, scientific instruments, gears and plain bearings, right? So these are the places where this kind of mechanisms can be applied, where the material forms, where the lubricant will be applied in a very thick surface of this angstrom size, 1000, greater than 1000 angstrom, and this thick lubricant will resist the frictional force, and thereby the frictional force will be reduced and the surface can move very smoothly, right? So this is about thick film or hydrodynamic or fluid film, and this is an example, right? So this is the two surface. So this is one surface and this is another surface, and the distance between these two is given as 1000 angstroms, and this much thick lubricating oil is sent between these two surfaces, and this thick lubricating oil makes a gap between these surface and thereby inhibiting the friction between these two surfaces. Okay, right. Moving on to the next one, boundary lubrication, right? And this boundary lubrication forms a thin film over the surface, and this thin film will be enough to reduce the friction, and the distance between the two surfaces for this mechanism will be between 20 to 30 angstrom units. Okay, so it will be very small, and this size of difference will be enough to make a thin film between the two surface, right? And it is for a non-continuous operation. You cannot use it continuously, and it is for high load system as well as for low speed materials. This boundary lubrication or thin film mechanism is applied, and here if you can see, the coefficient is slightly higher compared to your thin films and thick films, and the film formation is either by physisorption or chemisorption, right? It is just a physisorption or chemisorption. It just gets absorbed over the surface, and thereby it gives this lubricating property, and the oiliness should be very high. Okay, so the hydrophobic character of the material should be very high, so that it can give you the viscosity or it can give you the force for lubricating. And some of the things which are used are fatty acids and their soaps, right? Sodium salts of fatty acids are used as additives in these category, and they are used mostly in automobiles and in heavy machineries. Okay, so in heavy machineries and automobiles, this kind of thin film mechanism has been used, and the thickness, as I said, it will be around 20 to 30 angstrom, and it is used in a non-continuous operation, and the coefficient will be in the range of 0.05 to 0.15 centimeter per second, which is very higher compared to the thin film mechanism. Okay, right. Coming to the last one, so this is the image where the lubricant forms at the surface by either chemisorption or physisorption. Once it forms, then it will give the lubricating property. Okay, right. Coming on to the third one, extreme pressure lubricants, right? And what happens here is, it's not a physisorption or chemisorption happening here. Here the material reacts with the surface itself and it forms a compound, and that compound will act as a lubricant. Okay, so it's given here. So it's not mere absorption of the lubricant over the surface. The ingredients or the lubricant which has been added, that will react along with the metal surface or the surface in which it has been applied, and once it reacts, it forms a new compound, and that compound will act as a lubricant, and that will give the lubricating property, right? So extreme pressure lubricants interact with the metal surface in a chemical process. It is going to react chemically, it's not absorption, right, at a molecular level to create a protective compound. It is going to produce a new compound which increases the thermal stability of the metal surface, right. Once thermal stability is increased, that means the material cannot be will not dissipate the heat, so it will be very strong, and then that will be used as a lubricant. Okay, so this is not a film or a coating over the metal, it forms a permanent modification on the metal surface. Since it is going to react with the metal, so you are going to alter the surface of the metal, and this alteration is going to give you the lubricating property. Okay, and it's applicable in high load and high speed conditions. You can use it at a very high speed, or even if the load is very high, you can use this extreme pressure lubricants, right. And some of the examples are lubricants containing chlorinated esters, sulfurized oils, tricrysyl phosphates are used, right. So for example, if you take the sulfurized oils, right, and if you are going to apply this for a metal surface or an iron surface, iron is going to react with the sulfur present in this material, and it forms iron sulfide, and that iron sulfide will act as the lubricant. Okay, so one example is this sulfurized oil. If it reacts with iron, it forms iron sulfide, and this iron sulfide will be acting as the lubricant. Okay, and the thickness of this surface will be few molecular level, it will be in the nanometer scale, right. You are not going to waste any of the material, and the coefficient of friction, it will be slightly higher, 0.1 to 0.4 centimeter per second, and it finds application in aircrafts and spacecrafts. Okay, this it is applicable in aircrafts and spacecrafts, and this is about extreme pressure lubricants. Here it is not going to be in the form of a coating or as a film, it is going to form a new chemical compound, and that chemical compound will act as the lubricant. Okay, so these are the three different types of mechanisms which have been proposed for lubrication. Lubrication. One is the thick film, the other one is thin film, and the last one is the extreme pressure lubricant mechanism. Okay, right. So this is the example, right. So you can see here the metal, and this metal is combined with a lubricant which is a pre-lubricant, you can say. So this lubricant is going to react with the metal surface, and it forms chemical bonds, and it forms a permanent chemical bond over the surface, and this permanently formed material will act as the lubricant. Okay, so this is how it works. Right. So next comes the types of lubricants, right. Types of lubricants, once again three types are there. One is liquid, the other one is semi-solid, and the last one is solid. Okay. So depending on the nature of the material we have, one is liquid, other one semi-solid, and the third one is solid lubricants. We will see one by one. Liquid lubricants, right? So those are mostly oils, okay, and they have these properties. It will have high boiling point, the viscosity will be adequate to have the flow property, the freezing point should be very, very low, okay, so that it can be used at a wide range of temperatures. The freezing point should be low. It should have very high oxidation resistance, because it should not contaminate the material, whereby the oxygen will lead to corrosion. So it should have a high oxidation resistant property, and the heat stability should be high, right, and it should be non corrosive, and stability to decompose at very high temperature. So if it is going to decompose, it should decompose only at a very high temperature, right. So these are the properties which are being looked for liquid lubricants. So it should have a very high boiling point, it should have an adequate viscosity, the freezing point should be low, it should have high oxidation resistance, it should have high heat stability, and it should be non corrosive, and it should be highly stable for higher temperature application. So these are the properties of liquid lubricant, okay, and this is further classified into three types. One is animal or vegetable oils, the second one is mineral or petroleum oils, and the last one is blended oil, okay. Animal and vegetable oil, they are mainly from animal fats or vegetables or fruits or nuts, all these things, and they have very high oiliness, the hydrophobicity is very, very high. And mineral and petroleum oil, they are from petroleum products, petroleum crude, they distill the petroleum crude, and they will get different oils, right, and this has very, very less oiliness, okay. And the last one is blended oils. So from these two, one is having very high oiliness, the other one is having very less oiliness. So we can't use these two materials indigenously. So in order to have a better property, these materials has to be blended together at different proportions, and that type of oils are called as blended oils, okay. We will see this one by one, right. The first one is animal or vegetable oils. They are extracted from animal fat or vegetable oils, right, and they possess high oiliness, right, so that it sticks onto the metal very fast, and they are costly. That is one of the disadvantage of animal or vegetable oil, and they undergo oxidation, right, that's also another drawback. So if you see the properties of this liquid lubricants, it should resist oxidation, but here it will undergo oxidation very fast, and it forms a gummy material, it sticks, right, and once it sticks, the movement of the material or the flow will be hindered, okay. So they are costly, and they are also undergo oxidation and forms a gummy material, and they react with water and air, and these are the drawbacks of this animal and vegetable oils. And they undergo hydrolysis when in contact with air or water, right. So they undergo hydrolysis in presence of air and water, also a disadvantage, but because of this disadvantage, these material or this animal and vegetable oils are not very highly utilized, but they can be blended with other type of oils and can be used, right. So for example, here it can be blended with other materials from the petroleum oil, okay, or mineral oil, and then they can be used. So the advantage here is it is having high oiliness, okay, and it can stick to the metal surface very fast or very strong, thereby lubrication will be very high. But the disadvantage is it is costly, and it can undergo oxidation and hydrolysis, thereby the loss of the material will be more, the loss of the oil will be more, okay, right. So but this can be used when it is clubbed with petroleum oil, right. So the petroleum is some of the examples, right. So these are some of the vegetables and fruits and animal protein which is used to extract oil, right. So petroleum oil and mineral oil, they are obtained from distillation of petroleum crude, different layers will be there, and the hydrocarbon whatever obtained in the range of 12 to 50 is used as an oil. Okay, so 12 to 50 carbon chains have been used as petroleum or mineral oil, and they have shorter chains. If they have shorter chains, if the chain length is around 12 to 13, it will give low viscosity. If the chain is very high, and then you will end up with high viscosity. Okay, so flexible hydrocarbon chains will give you more viscosity, lesser chains will give you less viscosity. And the other advantage compared to our animal and vegetable oil is this material is very cheap comparatively, right, and it is available in abundance and quite stable, though it is now becoming extinct. So it is, for the time being, it is abundant and it's quite stable, and it has got poor oiliness, right. So here it is advantage, here is the disadvantage. The oiliness is very poor. That means it will not stick on to the metal surface that often. So if it is not sticking, the lubrication property will not be there, right. So it has got very poor oiliness. So in order to improve its oiliness, other ingredients are added. Some of the ingredients like oleic acid and stearic acid, those are nothing but hydrocarbons. So those acids are added, and these acids along with our animal oil or vegetable oil can be blended, and then you can achieve the property whatever we have. We can improve the oiliness, and then you can have a better lubricating property. Okay, so this is about petroleum or mineral oil, right. So this is an image how the petroleum crude is distilled, and we will get different layers of hydrocarbons, petrol, kerosene, gas oil, diesel, lubricating oils, fuels, bitumen, and asphalt will be the ultimate carbon left over in the petroleum crude. Okay, so this is how this petroleum or mineral oil is extracted and used, right. And the last one is blended oils. As I said earlier, the individual oils like animal oil and this petroleum oil cannot be used because of their disadvantages, right. So if you club these two oils and if you blend it at a certain proportion, then you can achieve a better property, and that better property can be used as a lubricant efficiently, right. So blended oils are one, right, and those oils are called blended oils that can be done or used, right. Okay, so the next type of lubricant is semi-solid lubricant. Whatever we saw till now comes under liquid lubricants. So now we are going to see semi-solid lubricants. Semi-solid means main thing is grease, right. So those are all in a semi-solid state, right. So these semi-solids grease are produced by soap dispersed in liquid lubricating oil. Soaps are nothing but sodium salt or fatty acids. This sodium salt or fatty acid is dispersed in liquid lubricating oil, whatever we saw in the earlier case. So it is dispersed and it is agitated at a very high speed. Once it is agitated at one stage, it forms a semi-solid material, and that semi-solid material is nothing but your grease. Okay, and this is prepared by saponification of fats with alkali, and this will give you soap. This will give you soap, and this soap is added to lubricating oil, at a very high speed, and this will give grease. Okay, so the animal fat or the fats whatever taken, so it undergoes saponification and you will end up with soap, and this soap, when it is added to lubricating oil and it is agitated at a very high speed, you will end up with a semi-solid material which is nothing but grease. Okay, so the amount of oil added, so the amount of the lubricating oil whatever added to make this grease determines the consistency of the grease. Okay, some application might need very thick grease, some might have very thin for semi-solid material. So depending on the amount of the lubricating oil used in preparing the grease, that decides the consistency of the grease. Okay, that depends on the application whatever it is intended, right. So the soap, right, the mechanism here is the soap whatever formed, that gets interconnected between the structure of the oil molecule. Okay, so oil is hydrocarbon, right, and the soap gets interlocked between these hydrophobic chains. Once it gets interlocked, the movement will be hindered and the lubrication will be very high. So the soap forms an interconnected structure between the oil molecules, right, and at high temperatures, right, this is at the room temperature, whereas at the high temperatures these can break. The bonds between the lubricating oils made by the soap molecules can break, and ultimately it will undergo liquefaction or it turns into liquid form, right. These materials cannot be used at very high temperature, because at higher temperatures the bridges whatever formed by the soap molecules starts breaking. Once it breaks, the soap molecule goes separately and the oil molecule goes separately, and the whole grease, the semi-solid material, becomes a liquid material. So these cannot be used at very high temperatures, right. So having high shear or frictional resistance than the oils and can be support heavy loads. Okay, so these semi-solid lubricants have very high shear or frictional resistance when compared to the oils like vegetable oil or mineral oil, right, and they can support very heavy loads, right. So whatever force you can give, this can be supported by this semi-solid lubricants. Okay, right. So these are some of the properties, and these are some of the examples of greases, right, which have been prepared using different compositions. The first one, calcium based grease. Okay, it has got calcium in it in the form of hydroxide, and this cannot be used above 80 degrees Celsius, right. So calcium based grease cannot be used at a temperature greater than 80 degrees Celsius. So, okay, so this is one type of grease, and the second one is soda based grease, right, and this sodium salt, and this can be used up to a temperature of 175 degrees Celsius. Okay, so the soda grease can be used up to a temperature of 175 degrees Celsius, and lithium based greases are also there, where lithium will be the material in it, and this can be used at a lower temperature up to 15 degrees Celsius, right. So if you want a very high temperature grease, then you have to go for soda based grease where sodium will be there. If you want to have a grease which can be used at lower temperatures, you can use lithium based grease, which can go up to a temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is semi solid lubricants, which is mainly nothing but grease which are formed by soap and mineral oil agitated at a very high speed. Okay, right. So coming to the next one, solid lubricants. The lubricant is going to be a solid, and this solid can be in the form of a powder or which is dispersed in a medium. Once it is applied between the surface, the medium will be removed and it remains as a solid powder between the layers. Okay, so this is solid lubricants, and these are preferred at certain conditions. It cannot be used everywhere. Whenever it is demanded, then only the solid lubricants can be used, because these are very costly. Solid lubricants are preferred when the operating conditions such that a lubricating film cannot be secured by the use of lubricating oils or grease. Whenever you are not able to find a lubricating property when you are using lubricating oil or grease, then only this solid lubricant can be used. If you are not achieving any of the lubricating property when you start using lubricating or grease, then only solid lubricants can be attempted. Second one is the contamination by the entry of the dust particles of the lubricating oil is unacceptable, right. So whenever you don't want any of the dust material or any other corrosion inducing material to enter into the material surface, at that point we can use solid lubricants. Okay, whenever you don't want any of the corrosion inducing materials like all these things, dust particles or dirt into the lubricating oil or grease, then you can use this solid lubricants. Okay. Third one, the operating temperature or the load is too high. Okay. Whenever the operating temperature is very high, even grease cannot be given, even grease cannot give. At those conditions, you can use solid lubricants. Whenever you need a very high temperature, so even grease cannot achieve that temperature, you can use this solid lubricants. And the last one, in combustible lubricants must be avoided. That means whenever any material which is going to combust, which is going to burn, right. So if those cases are there, in that cases we can use solid lubricants, right. Whenever the lubricant starts burning or it starts degrading, so at that point we can use this solid lubricants, right. So these are the reasons why solid lubricant can be used. Okay. And coming to the properties, the most common solid lubricants are graphite, molybdenum disulfide, tungsten disulfide, zinc oxide, talc and mica. So these are the common solid lubricants which have been used: graphite, sulfides of molybdenum, tungsten, zinc oxide, talc and mica, right. So they can withstand the temperature up to 650 degrees Celsius. If you recollect, grease can go up to a temperature of 175 degrees Celsius, whereas these materials, solid lubricants, can go up to a temperature of 650 degrees Celsius, and it can be used continuously. Okay, it can be used continuously like our lubricating thin film, thick film mechanism, right. So it can be used continuously, and they are also used as additives to mineral oils and greases, right. In some cases, these solid lubricants can be used as an additive along with mineral oil and greases. This will increase the efficiency of the lubricant. Okay. So this is solid lubricants. We will see the examples. We will take two examples, graphite and molybdenum. Graphite is nothing but carbon sheet graphene which is stacked one over the other, right, and these stacks are held with a weak van der Waals forces, and these weak van der Waals forces can be easily broken when a slight force is given to this material. So this slight force which can break the van der Waals force between the two graphene sheets can be applied or can be used as a lubricating property, right. So that's why graphite is used as an lubricant, right, as a solid lubricant, where the van der Waals force between the graphene sheets can be easily broken and it can be easily reformed, right. So because of this property, graphite has been used as a solid lubricant. So the other example is molybdenum disulfide. It has got a similar structure as graphite, whereas the only difference is the layer is kind of a sandwich layer. One will be molybdenum, the other layer will be sulfide, and the other layer will be molybdenum, right. So it has got molybdenum, sulfur and molybdenum. So this sulfur, if there is any imperfection either on the molybdenum surface or on the sulfur surface, then this lubrication property will be achieved, right. So these are the two examples of solid surfactant or so these are the two examples for solid lubricants, right. And if you can see here, the temperature for graphite can go up to 375 degrees Celsius, whereas here molybdenum it will go up to 400 degrees Celsius, right. So I will show you the structure of these two, right. So this is graphite. Okay. So you can see this as a graphene sheet. And these graphene sheets are held by this weak van der Waals forces, and these weak van der Waals forces can be easily broken by simply applying less force, and it can reform once again, and this reformation and formation can be applied as a lubricant property. Here you can see here molybdenum as one layer and sulfur as one layer, right, and it acts like a sandwich one. If there is any imperfection in this layer, then you can achieve lubricating property. right? So this is about solid lubricants, right? We will stop here and we will see the properties of these lubricants in the next module, and thank you for watching.